Hello, everyone. Good morning, good midday, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Rest, Reset, and Reflect. And my name is Nam Adadwaji. I am a personal evolution guide and writer, and I work with mid career professionals to access their inner wisdom during transitions and thresholds so that you can make more aligned and authentic decisions. So, welcome to the space. If you haven't hung out with me before, this time has a couple of core things that we do. First 10 to 15 minutes, we normally do just a simple kind of meditation that's more about getting into your body, reconnecting to your breath, having a bit of pause and margin in your day. And the second half is we normally kind of dive into a topic often related to rest, reclamation, and returning to self. So today, what we're going to dive into is what I'm calling a Burnout 911 game plan. So if you're someone you're in the thick of burnout, where it can be so difficult to even think clearly to get to how do I just get to the next step where I can start experiencing relief, and then from there where I can start creating a more long-term plan for recovery and for overall well-being in life and work. Stick around and join me. I will This is always recorded, so you can always come back if you're not able to join in this time. But if that is you, I'm sorry that you're in that place, and I hope that this time can be supportive and compassionate support for you to get what you need. Just a note that I am staying in an Airbnb, and there have been at times, like with video, some internet cutoff things. So just if for some reason, for a few seconds, I kind of dip out. That's what's happening. Thanks for your patience. I don't really have control over that. So now I invite you to wherever you are. Maybe you're at an office. Maybe you are at home. Maybe you're, outside somewhere taking a break from your workday. Wherever you are, what I want to invite is that you find a comfortable place where either it's private or just where you feel comfortable and at rest. If you are in a place that is more private, particularly if you're at home, just take a look around your space. Maybe you want to there are any doors you want to close or lock, blinds that you want to close. Just situating your space in a way that helps you feel comfortable. Maybe you even want to, if you are at a place where you have candles, or I have my essential oils, if you want to bring those scents with you, just taking a moment to set up your space in a way that feels comfortable. And wherever you are, once you've done that, it's inviting you to find a comfortable position, whether that is sitting in a chair, whether that is maybe if you're outside, you're sitting on a bench, or maybe it's even in the grass. If you're at home, maybe you want to lie down on a bed, a couch, or the floor. When you find that position, just inviting you to make any adjustments that you need to in order to feel just comfortable and settled. And when you find those adjustments, I want to invite you to either gently close your eyes if that feels okay for you, or to keep a soft gaze. And as you soften that gaze or close your eyes, I'm going to invite you to Gently notice your breath. There's nothing that you need to do or change. Just notice how it feels moving in and out of your body. Maybe you even want to take a breath in and give an audible exhale if that feels good. Inviting you to notice if there's any way that you want to adjust the movement of your breath in a way that feels good. And even as you do that, I invite you to take notice in your body of where your body is making contact with a surface, whether that's your seat in a chair, your back against a bed or a couch. Maybe it's your feet on the floor. I invite you to notice how those surfaces feel against your body, and also inviting you to see if you can let yourself be really heavy, letting yourself sink into these surfaces as a means of support. Maybe it's even helpful for you to imagine these surfaces as being able to hold anything heavy that you're carrying. And as you sink into these surfaces and maybe let yourself be heavy, I invite you to notice if there's anywhere you want to place your hands on your body that helps you feel more stable and grounded and settled. So maybe it's hands on chest or belly. Maybe it's somewhere else. And I also invite you to notice if there's any place within you that feels particularly rooted, strong, resourced, and stable. And even to bring your awareness gently to that space, letting yourself tune into that source of feeling grounded. And as you tune into that place that feels grounded, as you offer your body any motion or touch that feels grounding, I want to invite you to do a gentle body scan starting at the top of your head. And in this scan, you're welcome to notice if there are any parts of your body that maybe feel tense or rigid, any places that maybe feel tight. And as you notice those places, you're invited to maybe breathe into them, maybe to gently loosen up that tension. Or you're invited to perhaps move in a way that feels good. So, starting at the top of your head, noticing the muscles in your face, noticing your jaw muscles, Maybe you want to invite some gentle movement to your jaw or breathe gently into it. Noticing your neck muscles. Perhaps you breathe into your neck muscles, or maybe you even give a gentle neck roll in one direction and maybe the other. Bringing your awareness down to your shoulders. And here too, you're welcome to invite in breath, or maybe you want to shrug and circle your shoulders backward and forward. Bringing your awareness now to your back. Perhaps you want to twist in one direction and then the other. Tuning into your belly. Is there breath that you want to offer into this space? Relieving any tension or unease. Bringing your awareness down to your hips and sacral area. You're welcome to breathe into this space. You maybe even want to give this area a twist, a stretch, maybe even a little wiggle. Moving down to your thighs and the tops of your legs. Here too, noticing what breath or movement feels welcome here for you. Moving down to your lower legs, your ankles, and your feet. Taking a moment to notice what type of breath can you breathe into these spaces. Is there a touch that these areas are calling for? Or maybe there's a movement. And inviting you to notice if there's any other part of your body that feels like it wants a special breath, subtle or dynamic, big or small. Is there any other type of movement that your body wants to make? You're invited to do that now. And as you take that movement, I want to gently invite you to consider a question. There's no right or wrong, nothing that you need to push or force. Just notice what comes up for you. What does my body need to feel nourished today? What does my body need to feel nourished today? Again, it doesn't have to be big, and there's nothing that you need to push or force. Maybe it's even something as simple as more water. Maybe it's something simple as taking another few minutes to stretch. Maybe it's something like a hug from someone you love, a cuddle with your pet, a little break from your computer screen, your phone screen, your tablet screen, all the screens. Just inviting you to notice, what does your body need to feel nourished today? And as you notice that, I invite you to take any final movements that you feel led to make. When you feel ready and in your own time, gently opening your eyes if they're closed. And maybe you want to look around whatever space or area you're in to reorient. And when you feel ready, welcome back to the world. So I hope that felt grounding and reconnecting for you, reconnecting to your breath and your body. And I hope you're able to take whatever big or small piece that your body communicated in terms of what do you need to feel nourished today, that you're able to take that forward. If you're hanging out for the rest of our time together, as I mentioned at the top of this time, we're going to talk about a burnout 911 game plan. So, if you're someone that you are in the middle, steeped in burnout, where it can almost feel impossible to figure out how you get out of this, can be things like, speaking from my own experience, things like quietly crying in the bathroom stall at work, waking up in the morning and being filled with dread. I've had experiences where I was working past midnight and the office barefoot, and my colleague asked me a question and I just burst out crying. You might have physical symptoms, turning of stomach. I know friends who, from the stress, have had kind of clumps of hair falling out. It's a painful experience to be in burnout, and so want to offer some practical and compassionate steps you can take, not even necessarily to kind of get to the final finish line, but how do we just get to a place where we can get some immediate relief and where you can start getting back some of your capacity so you can make some longer term decisions in service of your burnout recovery and your long term longevity in life and work. So, what I want to say as we go into this, in terms of often in terms of burnout, is that burnout is not just you. There are so many people who are experiencing a level of burnout, and while there is certainly the official medical diagnosis of what burnout is, it may be that you're having some type of experience where you know that you don't feel well, you don't feel good, you don't want to feel like this anymore. I want to offer and validate that this is not just an individual issue, but that this is, in many cases, also systemic and organizational. One, in that there are ways that some organizations and companies are not structured and do not have a business and operation model that really is supportive for the longevity and sustainability and wellness of employees. that the business model really doesn't bring that into account. And so that's where you hear like lots of people burning out and people deciding to leave. And the second thing that I'll say is that I think in corporate spaces and in a lot of, I'll say at least US culture, we are actually often socialized not to trust and honor our body's signals. What I mean by body signals are from the really basic ones in terms of like hungry, thirsty, tired, to the more subtle ones that are connected to like I feel a weird kind of twisty in my chest when I'm around this person or in this conversation, right? And sometimes we are actually rewarded for ignoring those signals because, for example, well, there's a big launch or there's a big initiative, and in that big initiative, you consistently are not really eating enough, you're dehydrated, you're oftentimes pushing yourself to the brink in terms of when you need to relieve yourself, you're constantly on calls on the computer, you're not doing any type of movement, like a lot of times you haven't even really been outside, you're not really connecting with people that you love. Um, and then, it's not just a matter of just when you get through the launch, then it's just kind of a season. It's kind of becoming a chronic thing. And yet you are rewarded for it because you came through for the team, for the company, etc. So you are externally validated for ignoring your body's cues. And I just want to say that that is totally a totally real experience, and that has been a big part of my career. And to share one story that I had, I remember that at a point where I was living in San Francisco Bay Area and I lived in Oakland, but I worked at an office in San Francisco. And I remember waking up and it was really clear that like I was sick, I was not feeling well. But it didn't feel like, "Oh, I don't have the option to call in sick, like, I've gotta be there." So, I don't know, I think I shoved some like, a piece of bacon and, like, corn tortillas, in my mouth. I went to the train station and there was a Jamba Juice, and I got, like, a Jamba Juice smoothie with a ginger shot, and took the train in and went to work. But unfortunately, I think at least in the US, I think that's not necessarily unusual for us to feel like, well, I can't take a sick day, right? So even more so when you are uh, doing consistent actions like that, right? Where your body is clearly saying, hey, like I'm sick, I need to rest. But the pressures of your team, of your company culture, it makes it difficult to give yourself that space. So I just want to validate that there are signals external to you that can make it hard to take care of yourself. But I want to say that you need to prioritize yourself above your company. You need to prioritize yourself above your company because your company is concerned with with your company and your company's bottom line. There may be individuals at your organization that care for you and care about you. But what I'm saying is that the company as an institution is concerned with you as a resource for them to reach their business goals. So you need to own what you need to be well. So with that, what I want to get into first in terms of this burnout 191 and gay plan is how do you gently reconnect to your body's signals, right? Like I just said, we're often socialized to ignore our body signals. And the issue with that is that then we lose our well being, we lose access to our creative capacity and problem solving. And long term, it's very damaging on our body and our well being. And so, what also venture to say that if you are in a place where you're steeped in burnout, you are probably depleted, you're exhausted, you may even be kind of in this just chronic survival state where you are just so used to pushing through to survive the circumstance that you're in. And when you're in this place, may not only be that you are in a survival state, but that you are not just physically pushing yourself really hard, pushing yourself through your body's cues for food, for nourishment, for hydration, for rest. But I would also venture that if you are a person who is you're sensitive, you're particularly attuned, you're very emotionally intelligent, you're also probably doing a lot of invisible emotional labor that is also very taxing on the system and is often not recognized, yet is a core part of how you are able to do what you do and be successful at the company. So, in terms of just starting to get back in tune with your body, I'm going to invite you to do some really basic things. And these are going to sound very, very basic, but I know from my own experience of being burned out that it can get to that level where you just need to focus on your basic body care. So a few things that I offer in terms of that. One is please feed and nourish yourself, right? So please feed yourself throughout the day. If it feels like a lot to, if you feel at a place where you're like, I don't feel like I can take like an hour lunch break, take 10 minutes. Take 10 minutes to eat. Another option in the morning, don't open your laptop, your screens, any of the things until you have fed yourself, right? So taking time to intentionally nourish your body. The second thing that I want to offer in terms of just very basic body care, hydrate. It's so, I mean, even I think a lot of us have this, but like it's so easy to get really dehydrated. And especially when you're like whether you work from home and you're like in back-to-back calls, or if you're in the office and you need to run from this place to another, please, please, please hydrate. Something that I've done at times is set a timer that on the hour, when it's on that hour, have a glass of water. Do a little break, do a little stretch. The next thing I want to offer is, and this maybe is more related to if you work from home, and this is kind of like in peak sort of pandemic days, so maybe it doesn't resonate, but maybe it does. But consistently like bathing and showering, which again, it sounds very basic, but I know I had days when I was working from home during the pandemic where it was like I woke up at like 8 a.m. and went going to like 9 p.m. and I'm just in my pajamas. No kind of like maybe not even, maybe I like, wash my face, that kind of thing. But right. But just taking that time just to take yourself with a quick shower, right? There's so many things that I feel like not necessarily fully solved, but you feel much better when you just take that time to shower. And I'll also offer, if you're someone who always works from home, also thinking about maybe you also want to wear outside clothes, even though you work at home, right? It can be really, perhaps we kind of shifted out of this, but it can be really nice to, sometimes be in the PJs, but I think there was something about kind of getting on those outside clothes. If you're a person that wears makeup and does your hair, just getting in a way that feels like where you feel confident and good in your body, even if you aren't going into the outer world. The fourth thing I want to say is really important in terms of reconnecting to body is daily having some type of movement. And I intentionally use the word movement versus exercise because I know people can have kind of a fixed idea about what exercise needs to be. I'm not necessarily talking about you need to go to the gym for an hour and lift weights or run or do a cycling class or something. But by all means, if that is your jam and you enjoy it, then do that. But what I want to offer with movement is that our bodies have a physiological response to stress. It's not good or bad, it's not right or wrong. It's just a physiological response to stress that when stress comes in, our body kicks into motion in order to mobilize and do what it needs to do. Even though, we're no longer, we're not in the wilds and there's not a lion lion chasing us, but nonetheless, in stress, that's kind of how our body goes into motion. And so, for example, maybe you are in a situation where you have 5 million Slack messages, you have direct reports who are asking you, well, what do I need to do? This situation is popping off. There's a fire over here. You also need to plan and strategize for a big presentation, meeting, or call. So all these things are going off. So your system is moving into a mode where it mobilizes, where you're able to triage and prioritize and get everything together. So say that's happening, that's your day. You get to the end of your day and you've averted the crises. The stressor that kicked your body into motion is gone. But the physiological response does not necessarily just automatically complete. Right? In nature, say you again using that the lion, say if there's like a lion and a gazelle, the lion's chasing the gazelle kicks that stress response kicks in, and the gazelle is running, say is able to get away. But the gazelle kind of does something like a shake or something once it's in safety because that's resetting its body, right? It's resetting and shifting out the energy that came into place with the stressor, that lion chasing them. But often for you in your day, you have all the stressor and you have the physiological response in your body, but you're not completing the stressor response. So it's just you're having stress response upon stress response in stacking up in your body. And that's very depleting on your body and on your nervous system. So I know this is a long thread in terms of the movement piece. You need to, I really want to say daily, find a way to complete the stress and response in your body. And so movement and exercise is a really great way to do this. It can be something as simple as a walk, maybe even just dancing around in your living room. Sometimes it can be yoga. Um, Sometimes you can use breathing exercises, some type of way that you cue to your body, hey, the stressor is gone. You can bring it down again. And doctors Emily and Amelia Nagoski, I believe that's how you say their name, wrote a book called Burnout. Um, and it is all about, in particular for women, how to navigate burnout. And this is one of the big things that they talk about is that if there's nothing else that you do, find a way to daily complete that stress response in your body. Because that way you're bringing, instead of your body consistently staying in that stress response state, which I suspect if you're in burnout, it may be the case. You're daily like bringing your body back into kind of more of a regulated and stable place. So really want to invite you to do that. I would also even offer with these aspects of reconnecting to your body that would maybe be the most important one, or maybe most important one if you're just going to choose one to initially work with. And the last thing that I want to say in terms of reconnecting to our body's signals is prioritizing your sleep. I know this one can feel hard because maybe because of the burnout, because of the stress, you feel you have poor sleep, maybe you're able to fall asleep, but you wake up in the middle of the night, maybe you have racing thoughts, maybe you have a hard time falling asleep. There are a few things that I would invite here. Again, I do think that the movement regular movement will really help you get to a place where your body sleeps. The other thing that I would say is, and again, I know we're all guilty of this, but really not engaging with screens before bed, and even if you wake up in the middle of the night, not engaging with screens. But what's a different activity that you can do at night before bed that is calming, that's relaxing, that does not involve a screen that's kind of stimulating you again. This is also where you can do things like breathing exercises or light stretching to just kind of bring your body down. I sometimes too also do. I showed the essential oils, kind of doing things like fragrances or scents, things to bring your body down. And I'd also offer, if you are someone who wakes up in the middle of the night, again, instead of like reaching for a screen and scrolling, like maybe you just quietly read, maybe you quietly stretch until you feel tired again and go back to sleep. So those are the things I offer in terms of, right, again, this gently reconnecting to our body so that we can trust, right? Reconnect and trust our body's signals. These are these basic body care elements. If you feel like that whole list feels really overwhelming, I invite you to just choose one. Choose one for a period of time to work with that. And then as you feel capacity to take on more, right? This is not meant to be, a burdensome kind of wellness. This is a list for you to feel good again. So access whichever one feels like most accessible to you. And again, I do invite the movement one. I think really helps you close out that stress response. The next thing that I want to invite you to do, if you're in the thick of the burnout, is to, as you start doing these practices, these habits to reconnect, gently reconnect to your body, to recognize how we're experiencing burnout in your body, because it can look different for everyone. For me, a lot of it was just extreme exhaustion. I remember my chest always just kind of feeling like it was like kind of tearing open. Like it always just felt just just deep exhaustion in my chest, right? But it can look for different people. So start to notice, and I would say even document. Maybe you just have a notebook where you, as you go through your day and you notice how you're feeling, just document it. And I'm just saying, literally take 2 to 5 minutes, just document it. So this is doing a couple of things. One, it's just helping you become aware of, okay, what's happening in my body, right? What are the things happening in my body that I know like feel off, that don't feel good, and that I want to move away from these feelings, right? And they could be physical sensations. They also could be things like racing thoughts. Um, so one, you're just getting awareness of how it's showing up in your body. And the second thing is, if you do make the choice where you want to pursue something like using disability benefits in order to take a career break, which we'll talk about a little bit later, you will need documentation of your medical symptoms. And so this is where you will have that detailed list of how this is showing up in your body, so that you can talk about it with your medical practitioner or licensed mental health therapist, in order to use that, as that will be one of the key resources and information that you will need to provide there. The other piece that I'll just say with noticing the symptoms is also, if you have that capacity to notice, also notice what seems to like if you notice kind of the trigger, what kicks it off. Is it conversations with certain people that kick it off? Is it certain situations within your team dynamics that kick it off? Is it something that's happening at home? right? So also this can help you start to notice if there are patterns or themes, if there are certain situations or relationships that in particular are kicking off everything, so that then you'll also have that information for, as you have more capacity to process, understanding how to process it, and what you can do to shift or change those circumstances or your response to them. The next step that I want to invite in terms of a burnout 911 plan is take some immediate time off. So I'm not even necessarily talking about like taking a month off. I'm not even talking necessarily about like even taking 2 weeks off. I'm talking about, can you take an as soon as possible 2 to 5 days off? And this is time for you to, one, give yourself just even a beat more, a breathing room, to give yourself a bit of space to reflect on how you're feeling. Maybe you have capacity to reflect on kind of what's really contributing to the burnout, but maybe not, which is okay. In It can also give you space to start to figure out what you want to do from here, right? Because we know that you don't want to be in the burnout. This you need relief from it. So taking 2 to 5 days, whether that's taking the 6 days, maybe you stack it up with the weekend, maybe you use some of your vacation days, maybe there are company holidays, using this time to really take time away. Now, this really is time away. This is not, oh, I'm working from home or I'm working from XYZ location. This is, I'm logging off of work. I'm logging off of work. I'm not checking my devices. I'm not available. And I really, really want you to prioritize that, because this time is for you. This time is for you. And if you are in a place where you know you are not well, but you think, "Oh, well, like, I need to be there. I need to answer this. I need to do that. I need to do that." I'm gonna say this, and I don't mean it ugly. I don't mean it mean, and it's something I've had to say to myself. You cannot do your job if you're dead. Truly, you cannot do your job if you're dead. You talk about, "I need to be there. I need to do this. I need to do that. This person needs me. This question needs to be answered. Only I can answer it." I guarantee, if you are not available, your company will they will sort themselves out and move on. Your well-being is more important than your company success, okay? So I wanna really invite you to log off during this time, and this is where you I invite you to bring in your people that love you, because I know that the people that love you are more concerned with you being well, right? So whether that is a spouse, partner, friends, parents, siblings, if you have a work bestie, a trusted work bestie, or people that you know you can really trust at work, I invite you to enlist one of those people. Let them know what you're going through if you haven't already, if they don't already know, and say, "Hey, like, I need to take a couple of days off. Can you, if you know some of your temptation is to log on, can you hold me to it, to be like, if you say your work bestie, if you see me online, tell me to get off, right? Or, person in your life, your partner, your friend, hey, can you check in with me and ask, like, hey, did you schedule that time off? Did you schedule those 2 days off that are just for you?" And I also want to invite here too, not just on the work context, but also in home context, right? How can you enlist your people in your community for support, right? And this time away doesn't necessarily have to be you go, somewhere fancy. This is just great. If you can do that and that doesn't feel stressful for you to plan and do, by all means do that. But it could be as simple as being at home and just having the break. Or if you're someone that, if you're at home, that kind of brings in its own stressors, inviting you here to, again, have conversation with partner or spouse, maybe parents or in-laws or other type of community of, hey, I really need some time where I can take some time for myself. Can you help me figure out a way that, particularly if you have caregiving responsibilities of children or, of parents, can you really help me? Can we figure out a plan so that I can get this couple of days away? And maybe it's something too where you just like go to a hotel. It's still in your town, but it's a hotel and it's away, and you can kind of be away. But just again, time for you to be able to take a breather, to rest, and to start initially reflecting on kind of how are you feeling, what are potentially your initial understandings of how things got to here and what you're experiencing in burnout, and thinking about what you maybe want to do next. All right. And so I want to invite you to do that. Look, it's Wednesday right now. I want to invite you to do that by end of day this Friday. Right? Can you by end of day this Friday do even just one step towards that? Maybe just the one step of telling the trusted person, hey, I'm going to do this, so that that trusted person will help you figure out, so that as soon as possible, you take this 2 to 5 days off for yourself. For the step number 5, I as you kind of are getting some of this capacity back, take some time to review your finances. If you're not already kind of keyed in and clear about your finances, and what I mean by this are a few specific things. One, understanding what are your core baseline expenses. So by this, I don't necessarily mean everything that you spend money on, right? Like I don't mean like if you spend money on the latest and greatest iPhone, or or getting your nails done, or whatever kind of extra things. I'm talking about the things that, like, if push comes to shove, like no matter what, you're going to spend money on it, right? So housing, probably transportation, your way of communicating, right? So phone, your food, obviously, medications if you have sort of any of those core things. So what are those expenses, so that you very clearly know this is the bucket of things that no matter what happens, gonna need to spend money on them. The next thing is understanding if there are any places where you can kind of trim the fat in what you're spending, right? So again, these aren't potentially, it could be kind of, if any of these core expenses, there are ways you can reduce things. There may not be, but there could be, right? And some of these extra, some of the things outside of your core expenses. One, if there are things that it doesn't add ease, value, pleasure, joy for you or your family, cut that out, right? Like you don't need to spend any money. You don't need to spend more money on that. And the next thing, also wanting to understand your finances, is what is your saving situation, right? If you for some reason need to access that, and what's your investment situation, right? Not just perhaps retirement, but also just any other investment situations that you have. Right. So you want to, with your financial situation, the key part here is you're considering, if you for some reason get to a point in this burnout situation where you're like, all right, I need to peace out. I need to peace out of this job. You want to assess your financial situation so that you're not putting yourself at more financial risk, because in that now, you might be in a worse, more stressed situation if now, you have abruptly left the job, but you now are stressed out because either you don't know what your financial situation is, or you find you're actually really pressed financially. So inviting you to do that as well. Here as well, if you are partnered and you share finances with them, having them help you, and talking about that context. And even too, like if you're single, like you can get help of friends and make it a thing that you can do together, because it can always help to have that type of support. The last thing that I'll offer is, I'm looking at notes, is consider, or this is the last thing, second to last, consider career break options. So if you get to a point where you have enough bandwidth to realize that for whatever reason, the work situation you're in is not tenable, right? It's not tenable, it's not sustainable, it's not for you. You can't stay there. So you have a few options here, right? One is you can, start a job search, obviously start a search for a new job. Consideration here is do you genuinely have capacity for a new job that's in the same type of context or function that you've been doing? Because you may be in a space where you kind of need a breather, and this could be a space where, and I've done this multiple times before, where do you take kind of a bridge job, right? This is a bridge job, or what I call a cover job, where it's something where you're not using the same type of capacity. It's not as complex and stressing. I've done things where I've worked, say, like as an office manager, where sometimes that can have its own stress. But in the situation that I was in, it was a pretty like low stress situation. I know often with folks like in corporate, particularly if you're in leadership, there's a lot of complexity in terms of relationship and influential aspect. In this sense, it was just me as an office manager. I was a department of one, so it was very autonomous. I just needed to kind of connect in with the executives of like, hey, here's what I've done. As for a small startup. So considering if something like that is what you want to do, perhaps either, maybe like a contract situation, because it gives you some emotional distance, although that can still have its own stressors. The other options are in terms of taking a career break, or maybe just taking a break. Maybe if you have the capacity and time, depending on where it's sitting in the year, maybe you want to do something like use your vacation days to create an extended break for yourself. So I think that this works best if you're in the US, if you're thinking about around Thanksgiving, around winter holidays time, stacking up your vacation days with often, right, companies close down between Christmas and New Year's, stacking up some time either before or after in January. I'd maybe recommend after in January because I feel like a lot of stuff is happening in December, to give yourself an extended career break, right? So this is an option where you wouldn't need to quit your job. You would just be stacking up the days so that you can do an extended break that would give you some breathing room, or to rest, to reflect, to plan on what you want to do for your next moves. If you want to do that, look, it's April right now. As soon as possible, I'd say like next week, put in those days and that request for that time so that's already locked in, right? The next options that I want to offer are, and this one, I'm doing a workshop on it with an executive and transformation coach who's also a licensed mental health therapist, is see if you can leverage and are eligible for the Family Medical Leave Act, and or short-term disability benefits through your job. So often you are paying into your short-term disability benefits that if you are in certain medical situations, which burnout would be included, you are able to take job protected time off that from which you wouldn't have to quit your job, and it would be at a reduced 50 to 70% reduced rate, but would also still be receiving payment from job. That can vary based on state, based on your company's benefits, but that is also an option to explore if you, again, are truly in this burnout 911 situation. If that's an option you want to explore, join us for that workshop on Friday, April 24th, 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern time. And I'll put the link to that workshop in the comments here. The other thing to check out is that if your company has a sabbatical policy, so your company actually may have a sabbatical policy and you might be eligible for it. So I know places like Meta has one, Bank of America has one, PayPal has one. Most of the time it's that you have been there for a certain amount of time. And I think it may also be that you're like in good standing, and you can take like 4 to 6 weeks off, paid. And obviously you still have the job. So take a look at that and see if you're eligible for that. And maybe you already know that you're eligible for it, but you still haven't taken it. So that's another one that if that's you, maybe this is again where you invite your work bestie to say, hey, Did you talk to HR or your manager or whoever or whatever the process is about taking your sabbatical? So that's another one to check out. And the final one that, perhaps like this can be the more challenging one depending on where you are is you can quit, right? And for this one really leans pretty heavily into understanding your financial situation, understanding the different levers and factors of support that you have around you. So if you do choose that option, it is just really key to understand that you have a strategic plan for quitting, and with the knowledge that, particularly now, I think most of us know that the job market right now is pretty gnarly. So you really want to be sure that you have a plan so that you don't end up in a more stressful situation because now you're taxed and you don't have money coming in, right? I'm not saying this to scare you in turn or to say keep pushing through, grinding yourself to dust in a job. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that get clear on one of these options that are present, and if it is the quitting option, get very clear on your plan for that so that you are supporting yourself and not getting yourself in more stress financially. The last thing I want to tap into is around this plan is if you decide the option of leaving, preparing yourself for that and setting yourself up for success in that. So, how can you use all of your benefits? Some of y'all have some really, really great benefits. So use all of them. Do all of your appointments that you need to do with medical, all the medical things. Take every reimbursement that you possibly can. Use all of your benefits for yourself, right? Like that's part of your compensation. So use it for yourself. This is where use as you think about your exit conversations, both formal and informal. This is where you can use some your wisdom, your discernment around how to have those conversations. Now, I know you might be pissed off, right? Like you might and you have 100% a right to be pissed off or angry. And while it might feel like, oh man, it'll just feel so good to like pop off in my exit interview or to my boss or to colleagues or even online, I really strongly advise you not to do that. Not because again, you are entitled to that anger, but that can ultimately jeopardize, right, your career and your connections for future. Not that, you need to be fake in terms of your connections, but you want to protect yourself, right? You want to practice self-preservation, and even if you are able to very calmly and clearly communicate legitimate feedback around your experience. Unfortunately, not everybody is trustworthy, right? Like not everybody are people of character, and so sometimes that can be used against you. So it's always an option to say the minimum. You're not required to communicate about what you're doing next, where you're going. And also think about, in more informal conversations with, maybe the people you're really close to at work, who you trust, the timing of that and how you want to communicate that you're exiting, because those are the folks who I know the people that I worked with. I've always worked with amazing people, and they're the only way I could not have made it through without them. So I think it's really important to honor those relationships and letting them know kind of what you're doing. Again, you're not in, if you don't feel comfortable, you don't need to share kind of what you're doing next or not doing next, but just letting them know, I think expressing gratitude and appreciation and staying in connection and, in the necessary conversations with supervisors, with HR, et cetera. again, it's always an option to, say as little as possible, and use discernment in terms of how you communicate those. So that is the Burnout 911 plan. If you're needing to kind of work through this more on your own, I have a free resource, the Burnout Reflection Guide, that walks you through essentially all the things that we talked about during this live so that you can work through it on your own time. And if you do have questions, if you do have concerns, you can always feel free to DM me and let me know what those are. And finally, again, I want to say that we have the workshop with Jalen Agnew, executive and transformation coach and licensed mental health therapist, regarding how to take a career break without quitting your job. So this is really relevant for folks who, as I mentioned earlier, you are in a place, Burnout 911, where your health is really in a stretched and bad place, and where you can potentially leverage short-term disability benefits or the Family Medical Leave Act to take a job protected career break. With that, I know we're at an hour. That was a meaty hour. And the last thing that I want to invite you to know, that I want to say, is that even though it may feel like this will never end, maybe if you feel like you have no idea how you will make it through this, I have 1,000% been in that position, and I have multiple times been in that position. And I want to say that you will make it through this. And I want to also invite you to bring in the people that you love to help support you. You don't need to do this alone, and you can't do it alone. You need your people around you, and take care of you. You're so, 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 so worthy of being well. And so I invite you to honor yourself and care for yourself. And with that, thanks for joining, and wishing you nourishment and ease as you go into the rest of your day.